It was ironic, really. After all those years of loving him in silence, the universe chose that day when someone else finally took his hand to make him see me. Ethan Hayes had always been the boy who made the world feel bigger than it was. To everyone else, he was the golden kid of Maplewood High, the captain of the basketball team, the one who smiled like he had nothing to lose. To me, he was home, my best friend, my secret, my constant ache. Noah Avery was the quiet one, the boy who filmed everything but lived nothing. The lens between us was my shield, and every frame I captured of him was a confession I could never say out loud. We grew up together on the same street, shared lunches, heartbreaks, and dreams under the old oak by the lake. He used to say we'd leave town together, that he'd never let anyone break our bond. But people change. Feelings grow wild when they're hidden too long, and mine had roots deep enough to hurt. It wasn't until Leo arrived, a new transfer student with a fearless grin and an energy that shook our quiet little world, that Ethan began to look at me differently. At first, it was subtle. A flicker of confusion when Leo draped an arm around me. A flash of irritation when I laughed too hard at Leo's jokes. Then, one night, it exploded. The fall festival had painted our small town in strings of light and the scent of caramel apples. Leo had convinced me to enter the photo contest. I spent hours wandering through the crowd with my camera, pretending not to notice the way Ethan's eyes followed us. When Leo leaned close to whisper something that made me laugh, Ethan's jaw tightened. "Didn't know you and Leo were that close," he said, his voice too sharp for casual conversation. I froze. "He's just a friend, Ethan." "Yeah? Doesn't look like it." There it was, the jealousy I dreamed of and dreaded all at once. "Why do you care?" I shot back. His eyes darkened, pain flickering beneath the anger. "Because," he stopped himself, looked away. "Forget it." But I couldn't forget it. That moment cracked something open inside me, a hope I had buried long ago. Later that night, I found him by the lake, where the reflection of carnival lights danced across the water. He was sitting on the dock, staring into the distance, shoulders tense. "Ethan," I said softly, sitting beside him. "What's going on?" He didn't look at me. "You're different with him." "Different how?" Like you're not scared anymore." That hit harder than it should have. "Maybe I'm just tired of hiding what I feel." He turned to me, eyes searching. "And what do you feel, Noah?" My heart slammed against my ribs. For a moment, I almost said it. Almost told him that every breath I took had his name in it. But I didn't. I smiled instead, the kind that hides more than it shows. "You'll figure it out," I whispered, and I left before he could see the tears. A week later, Ethan started dating a girl named Hannah. It was his way of running, and I knew it. The town adored them, perfect couple, perfect smiles, perfect lie. I tried to move on. I even said yes when Leo asked me out, though my heart still belonged to someone else. Leo wasn't stupid. He saw it, all the glances, the silence, the way Ethan and I hovered around each other like magnets, fighting and failing to repel. One afternoon after school, Leo said gently, "You know he's in love with you, right?" I laughed bitterly. "If he is, he's doing a great job pretending otherwise." Leo's eyes softened. "No, Noah. He's scared. The kind of scared that makes you hurt the person you care about most." Those words lingered long after Leo walked away, because deep down I knew they were true. Then came the day everything shattered. It was supposed to be an ordinary Friday. Ethan's basketball game, the usual cheers from the bleachers, Hannah waving from the front row. I was there too, camera in hand, pretending to document memories I didn't want to remember. During the last quarter, Ethan collided with another player and fell hard. The gym went silent. My camera dropped from my hands before I even realized I was moving. He was fine, just a sprained ankle, but when he saw me rush to his side, something in his eyes changed, like the fall had knocked the truth loose. Later, in the locker room, when everyone else had left, he looked at me and said quietly, "You shouldn't have come running like that. People will talk." "I don't care what they think," I said, my voice trembling. "Well, maybe I do," he snapped, then immediately looked like he regretted it. I felt the words slice through me. "You care more about what they think than what I feel." He didn't answer. That night, I ended things with Leo. He didn't argue, just smiled sadly and said, "Maybe he'll finally wake up now." The next few weeks were chaos. Rumors spread about me and Leo, about Ethan and Hannah, about everything and nothing. The world around us blurred, but the distance between Ethan and me grew sharp, painful, until the day he showed up at my door in the rain. He was drenched, shaking, eyes red. "She broke up with me," he said hoarsely. I didn't know what to say. "Ethan," he cut me off. "She said I was in love with someone else." My breath caught. "And are you?" He stepped closer, rain dripping from his hair. "Yeah," he whispered. "I think I've been in love with you my whole damn life." The silence that followed was deafening. Part of me wanted to believe him. The other part knew love born from guilt never lasts. So I did what I always did. I smiled through the pain. "It's too late, Ethan." But he didn't back down. "No, it's not. Not if you still feel it too." And when he kissed Messoft, trembling, desperate, it felt like every suppressed memory, every unspoken word, came alive between us. That night changed everything. We didn't label it. We didn't tell anyone. We just were. Quietly, secretly, selfishly. But secrets have a way of unraveling. When our classmates started whispering, when photos surfaced online, when my parents found out, everything burned. The world wasn't kind to boys like us. Not in our small town. Not when love refused to hide anymore. Ethan tried to protect me. Fought back against rumors, lost friends, almost lost his place on the team. But for the first time, he didn't care. "I'm not losing you again," he told me one night, his hand warm against my cheek. "Not because of them." And maybe that's when I realized love wasn't about being fearless. It was about being scared and choosing each other anyway. For a while, we lived between moments, half love, half fear. Every touch felt like both a promise and a risk. Ethan would come over late at night after practice, sneaking through my window the same way he did when we were 12. Only now, instead of whispered jokes and flashlight stories, we shared stolen breaths and trembling hands, learning what it meant to love someone you weren't supposed to. We never said it out loud, not really. But when he looked at me across the room, when his fingers brushed mine in the dark, I knew. Still, the world outside didn't stop turning. And it wasn't long before it started noticing us. It began with a photo. Someone at school, maybe jealous, maybe just cruel, had taken a picture of us behind the bleachers. Ethan's hand was on the back of my neck, his forehead pressed to mine. It wasn't explicit, but it was enough. By Monday, everyone had seen it. The whispers hit first, then the laughter, then the questions. "Are they really? Did you see that photo? Guess the golden boy's not so golden anymore." Ethan didn't say anything at first. He walked through the hallways like nothing had changed, jaw set, eyes cold. But I could feel a storm building inside him. When coach pulled him aside after practice, I knew. I followed, standing just outside the office, hearing every word through the thin door. "Son, whatever you're doing with that boy's top, it's not just your business anymore." The board's asking questions. "My business?" Ethan's voice was sharp. "You mean my life? Call it what you want, but you've got a scholarship on the line. Don't throw it away for a mistake." I didn't hear the rest. Couldn't. I left before he came out, before he could see the look on my face. Because deep down, I knew he'd have to choose. And I was terrified of what that choice would be. That night, he didn't come over. Or the next. Or the one after. By the fourth night, I couldn't take it anymore. I went to his house, heart pounding. His mom answered the door, kind as ever, completely unaware that her son and I were more than friends. "He's out back," she said, smiling. He was sitting on the porch steps, staring at the empty basketball court behind his house. The air between us was thick, heavy with everything we hadn't said. "Hey," I murmured. He didn't turn around. "Hey." I heard what coach said. His shoulders tensed. "It doesn't matter." "Of course it does. Ethan, you worked for that scholarship. You can't just..." He finally looked at me, eyes dark and tired. "You think I care about basketball right now?" "Yes," I said quietly. "Because it's part of you." Just like this, I gestured between us. Just like we are. He laughed bitterly. You sound like you think we can have both. Why not? Because the world won't let us, he shouted, then caught himself, lowering his voice. Noah, they'll destroy us. You saw what happened just from a picture. You think the scouts, the sponsors, the colleges, they won't care? They will. And what about me? My voice cracked. Am I supposed to disappear so you can keep playing pretend? He stared at me, and for a long moment, I thought he'd say anything to make it better. But he didn't. He just looked scared. I need time, he said. I nodded, even though it felt like my chest was caving in. Take all the time you need. Then I turned and walked away. Weeks passed. We didn't talk. I stopped filming. My camera stayed in its case, gathering dust. Every time I saw him in the hallway, laughing with Hannah again, yes, Hannah, the girl he'd once broken up with, it felt like a knife twisting deeper. People said we'd both moved on. But love doesn't move on. It lingers. It haunts. Then one afternoon, as autumn slipped quietly into winter, I got a call. It was Leo. He'd moved to another town after everything blew up, started over somewhere no one cared who he loved. I heard about the scholarship, he said. What about it? I asked flatly. He turned it down. The words hit me like cold water. What? Ethan. He told the scouts he needed to figure things out first. Then he disappeared for a while. I thought you'd know. I didn't. But I knew where he'd go. The lake. Our lake. The same place we'd spent summers pretending forever was real. I found him sitting on the dock again. Hoodie pulled tight, breath misting in the cold air. He didn't look up when I sat beside him. You're still bad at hiding, I said softly. That got a faint smile out of him. Guess I didn't want to be found. Then why come here? He looked at the water, eyes reflecting the gray sky. Because this is where I realized I loved you. Seemed like the right place to figure out what to do about it. Silence stretched between us. The kind that carries too many unsaid things. Finally, I whispered, you didn't have to throw everything away for me. I didn't, he said simply. I did it for us. I turned to him. Ethan, he met my gaze. And for once, there was no fear, no hesitation, just truth. I'm tired of running, Noah. Tired of pretending I don't feel what I feel. I lost myself trying to fit into what everyone else wanted me to be. I won't do it anymore. My throat tightened. You think it'll be easy? That people will just accept it? No, he said. But if I've got you, I don't need them. It wasn't a speech. It wasn't perfect. But it was real. And when he reached for my hand, I didn't pull away. That winter was brutal. Snow piled high against our doors, the world quiet and still. But for the first time, I didn't feel cold. We didn't hide anymore. We didn't shout it from rooftops either, we just lived. He'd pick me up for coffee before practice. I'd sit in the bleachers pretending not to stare too long. His teammates eventually stopped talking. People get bored of hate faster than you'd think. Still, there were bad days. Days when my parents wouldn't look at me. Days when Ethan's dad refused to shake my hand. Days when the world reminded us that being ourselves came with a price. But love has a strange way of growing in the cracks. We started dreaming again, talking about college, about leaving Maplewood behind, about living somewhere where no one cared who we held hands with. Ethan got a job at a local hardware store, saving up. I applied to a film program in Chicago. The night before I left for my interview, he came over with a small box in his hand. It's not a ring, he said quickly, smiling shyly. Just something to keep with you. Inside was a keychain, a tiny silver camera. So you don't stop capturing things, he said, even when I'm not in them. I laughed softly, blinking back tears. You're always in them, Ethan. Even when you're not. The interview went well. Better than I expected. They loved my portfolio, especially one photo. Ethan sitting by the lake at sunset, eyes closed, light spilling across his face like forgiveness. When I got the acceptance letter weeks later, I ran straight to his place. He was fixing something in the garage, grease on his hands, music playing loud. I got in, I blurted, breathless. He froze, then grinned so wide I thought my heart might burst. You did it. He grabbed me, lifted me off the ground, spinning me until we were both laughing too hard to breathe. Then, suddenly, he set me down and looked at me. Serious. When do you leave? In 2 weeks. The joy faded a little from his face. 2 weeks, he repeated quietly. Ethan, he shook his head, forcing a smile. It's good. It's great, actually. You deserve this. But I could hear the fear underneath. The same fear I felt too. Because love doesn't end with distance, it just changes shape. And we didn't know yet if ours was strong enough to stretch that far. The last night before I left, we went back to the lake. No words, no plans, just us. Wrapped in the kind of silence that says everything. He held me close, chin resting on my shoulder. I don't want this to be goodbye, he whispered. It's not, I said. It's just, see you soon. Promise. Promise. When he kissed me, the stars blurred. And for the first time since we were kids, I believed we'd be okay. That was 2 years ago. Now, as I stand in a small Chicago theater, watching my first short film flicker across the screen, a story about 2 boys, a camera, and a love that refused to stay hidden, I spot him in the crowd. Ethan. He's sitting in the back row, wearing that same old denim jacket, eyes shining with pride. After the applause fades, he finds me in the lobby, grinning. You made it, he says softly. So did you. He chuckles. Still working at the hardware store. Yeah, but you came all this way. He shrugs. I told you, I'm not losing you again. And just like that, 2 years of distance, fear, and longing dissolve into something simple, something whole. Love. Later that night, we walk along the quiet Chicago streets, city lights glinting off the snow. He slips his hand into mine, no hesitation this time. People pass us, some look, most don't. And for the first time, I realize it doesn't matter. Because the world is big enough now. Big enough for us. He looks at me, smiling. Remember what you said that night? That it wasn't goodbye. I nod. Yeah. He squeezes my hand. You were right. The next morning, I woke up to sunlight pouring through my apartment window and a familiar scent, Ethan's cologne. He was standing in the kitchen, barefoot, making coffee like he had been doing it forever. He glanced over his shoulder and smiled. Good morning, filmmaker. Good morning, small-town hero. I teased, voice still rough with sleep. He laughed, handed me a mug, and leaned against the counter. You know, it feels weird being here. Chicago, this new life. But it feels right, too. I looked at him for a long moment, the city skyline reflected in his eyes. Stay, I said quietly. He froze. You mean, move here? I nodded. We've spent too long running from what we want. Maybe it's time we build something that's ours. His gaze softened. And what about your parents? My dad. I think, I said, setting the mug down. It's time we stop hiding from them too. A week later, we drove back to Maplewood. The same roads, the same fields, but everything felt different. Lighter somehow. Like coming home after a storm. My parents were in the backyard when we arrived, setting up for Sunday lunch. My mom smiled when she saw me, but it faltered slightly when Ethan stepped out of the car. Ethan, she said, cautious but kind. It's been a while. Yes, ma'am. His voice was steady, respectful. I wanted to talk to you both, if that's okay. We sat at the old picnic table, the one where Ethan and I had eaten popsicles as kids. My dad crossed his arms, silent, waiting. Ethan took a deep breath. I know you probably already know, and I know it hasn't been easy for you, for Noah. But I wanted to say it anyway. I love your son. The words hung in the air, fragile and heavy all at once. My mom's eyes glistened. My dad's jaw tightened. I could almost hear the years of silence between us, the worry, the confusion, the unspoken fear of what other people would say. Finally, my dad said quietly, Do you make him happy? Ethan didn't hesitate. More than anything. My dad looked at me then, really looked. And you? I smiled, tears pricking my eyes. Yeah, Dad, I am. He sighed, long and slow, then nodded. Then that's all that matters. My mom reached across the table and took my hand. We just want you both safe. The world can be cruel. Ethan squeezed my knee under the table. We know, he said, but it's getting better. For the first time in years, it felt like we weren't fighting anymore. Just living. Later that afternoon, we drove to Ethan's house. His father was in the yard, repairing the fence, same as he always did when he didn't want to talk. Ethan walked up to him, quiet but firm. Dad. The man didn't look up. Heard you're back. Yeah. A beat of silence. I saw your film, his father said finally, voice gruff. That part where the boy chooses love over fear. He paused, eyes flicking up for just a second. You did good. Ethan blinked, caught off guard. You watched it. Your mom made me. He snorted, then added, softer. I didn't understand at first, but I think I do now. Ethan's voice cracked. Does that mean... It means... His father interrupted, setting down the hammer. You're my son, and that doesn't change. Ethan swallowed hard, nodding. Thanks, Dad. His father gave a small, awkward smile. Just, maybe don't kiss him in front of the pastor's wife next time. Ethan burst out laughing. No promises. And just like that, the wall between them began to crumble. That night, the whole town gathered for the annual spring fair. Lights twinkled, music drifted through the air, and laughter filled the streets. For the first time, Ethan reached for my hand in public. Not a hesitant touch, not a secret, just a simple, honest gesture. People stared at first. A few smiled, a few frowned. But we didn't care. We walked past the Ferris wheel, the cotton candy stands, the games we used to play as kids. Everything was the same except us. As the evening sky deepened to indigo, we found ourselves back at the lake. The lights of the fair reflecting across the water like stars that had fallen just for us. Ethan looked at me, eyes shining. Remember when we used to come here and make wishes? I nodded. You always wished to win state championships. He smiled. And you wished to tell stories that mattered. I took a step closer. Guess we both got what we wanted. He shook his head. Not everything. Yeah? What's missing? He leaned in, whispering against my lips. Forever. The kiss that followed wasn't desperate like the first, or secret like the ones that came after. It was steady, sure. The kind of kiss that said, we made it. Months later, my documentary, The Space Between Us, premiered at a small indie festival. It told our story without names, without faces, just fragments of truth stitched together through voiceovers, laughter, and still frames. It ended with a single image, two silhouettes holding hands by a lake at sunset. When the credits rolled, there wasn't a dry eye in the room. People came up to me afterward, saying things like, that was beautiful, and it felt real. Ethan just stood there, smiling quietly. As we walked out into the cool evening, he said, you know, maybe that's what love really is. What? I asked. Not fireworks, not grand gestures, just showing up, over and over, even when it's hard. I looked at him, heart full. Then I guess we're doing it right. He laughed, pulled me close, and kissed my forehead. Yeah, we are. That night, we drove back to the lake one last time. The stars were out brighter than I'd ever seen them. The water was still, reflecting every shimmer of light like glass. Ethan wrapped his arms around me from behind, chin resting on my shoulder. You ever think about how everything started here? He murmured. All the time. And how it almost ended here too? I smiled softly. That's the thing about almosts. They make the endings mean more. We stood there for a long while, the sound of crickets filling the silence, our reflections merging into one beneath the starlight. Finally, Ethan whispered, promise me something. Anything. No matter where we go, no matter what happens. We don't hide again. I turned to face him, holding his gaze. Never again. Then, as the night folded around us, I lifted my camera and took one last photo. No posing. No perfection. Just two boys, grown now, holding each other in the quiet proof that love real, love survives everything. Years from now, maybe someone will find that photo in an old gallery or a forgotten folder. Maybe they'll see two figures by the water, hands intertwined, and wonder who they were. And maybe that's enough. Because in the end, we didn't need the world to remember our names, only each other. Thank you for listening. If you find it interesting, please like and subscribe to follow the next stories.